Today we will talk about that day when the Tawaf of Kaaba stopped. The walls of Masjid al-Haram were stained with blood. 300 extremist fighters entered Masjid al-Haram and took thousands of innocent people who had come for Umrah's hostages. Then a person pointed toward his companion and said that Imam Mahdi has arrived. The time of judgment is near, and if you are true Muslims, come forward and pledge allegiance to our Imam Mahdi. Friends, today we will read a chapter of history that completely changed the politics and social landscape of Saudi Arabia. Today we will talk about the Siege of Mecca 1979. To understand this event, we need to go back to 1970s, Saudi Arabia. This decade was going to prove most important for Saudi Arabia. During King Khalid's era, a wave came to Saudi Arabia, a wave of modernization. The 1970s oil boom was ongoing. Oil prices had skyrocketed worldwide, and the money coming from that expensive oil was changing Saudi Arabia's landscape. Modern infrastructure was being built, schools were being constructed, roads were being made. But one section was not happy with all this progress, the religious section. They believed that the modernization coming to Saudi Arabia was taking the country far away from Islam. Therefore, many voices were raised against King Khalid, and among all those voices, the loudest was that of a person named Juhayman al-Otaybi. Juhayman was once a member of the Saudi National Guard. Yes, the Saudi National Guard, whose sole purpose is to provide protection to Saudi royal families. The protection of the king is the responsibility of the Saudi National Guard. But now Juhayman stood against the Saudi monarchy, and his purpose was only one: to end the distance from Islam that had come due to modernization and establish an Islamic. And that could only happen when the monarchy in Saudi Arabia ends. Juhayman al-Otaybi believed that his brother-in-law, Mohammed bin Abdullah al-Qahtani, was the Imam Mahdi, refuge with Allah. And it's not at all the case that only his brother-in-law considered Qahtani as Mahdi. No, this spiritual leader had many other followers who believed the same, that Qahtani was Imam Mahdi. His followers believed that Qahtani had come to this world to eliminate corruption from all Muslims and to end the monarchy running in Saudi Arabia. The followers said that this monarchy had befriended powers like the US in the name of modernization. And then finally that day came, November 20th, 1979. The capture of the Grand Mosque, it was dawn. Worshippers were praying. Many people were asking their Lord for blessings. During all this, approximately 200 to 300 hidden terrorists were executing their plan. They were smuggling heavy weapons inside funeral coffins and food supplies. As soon as all the weapons and militants entered the mosque, they closed all the gates, blocking the way out. They also stationed snipers on the minarets of the mosque so that they could cover the entire area. Then Juhayman and his companions took control of the mosque's microphone and announced that the time of judgment is near, and Mohammed bin Abdullah al-Qahtani is Imam Mahdi. He has come to bring all Muslims out of misguidance. He has come to end the monarchy from Saudi Arabia, and he has come to establish the caliphate. So if you all are true Muslims, come and pledge allegiance to Imam Mahdi. The hostages were given a warning that if anyone tried to escape, they would be killed. And there, the Saudi government was worried. Their initial response was bewildered. They had never thought that such an incident could happen. They were totally not ready for it. The Saudi leadership couldn't understand how to proceed. Juhayman's militants were also in the underground tunnels of the mosque. They had already stationed snipers on the minarets, meaning the entire complex was under their control. Obviously, international backlash was also coming. Everyone started saying that the Saudi government couldn't protect such a sacred place. Something had to be done. So then the Saudi National Guard made their first assault. The plan was very simple, perhaps too simple: go and directly attack the gates. Unfortunately, the Saudi National Guard underestimated the enemies. They didn't even know that snipers standing on the minarets had been watching them for a while. And mainly because of those snipers, many Saudi troops had to lose their lives. The first assault failed so badly, When the second assault happened, it lasted for almost 2 days. Saudi troops came with armored vehicles this time, which were bulletproof. They also had heavy machine guns, and the goal was simply to enter the mosque once with full firepower. But this assault also failed. Then came the turn of the third assault. Saudi troops tried to enter through the underground tunnel of the mosque, but again they underestimated the enemies. Juhayman's companions knew that Saudi troops would definitely try to come through this route, so they had already laid booby traps for soldiers. As soon as soldiers passed through, there would be a powerful explosion. And when the third attempt also failed, Saudi Arabia asked France for help. Clearly, the Saudi government now understood that they didn't have the expertise to handle this situation. When the French Special Forces Jain arrived, they provided advisory support to Saudi troops. Physically, they couldn't enter Masjid al-Haram for obvious reasons. The rule is that no non-Muslim can enter Masjid al-Haram. So this French force had only one job to guide, to tell what to do and what not to do, to make a plan and to execute that plan. And then the French commandos advised a new strategy: let's flood the insurgent areas with tear gas and stun grenades. Acting on the advice of French forces, Saudi soldiers started drilling in the outer floor of the mosque. This drilling had only one purpose: to connect the floor with the underground tunnel. And when such holes were created in the floor through which the basement could be connected, tear gas was deployed through those openings. The terrorists who were sitting in their positions were weakened due to so much tear gas. When a lot of tear gas was deployed, water was also pumped into those holes, which filled the entire basement with water. Juhayman's companions' condition worsened. Some died right there, some fled outside to surrender, and some were also killed in crossfire. When the insurgents inside were in bad condition due to tear gas and water, then the final assault was done. And this assault was successful because in this assault, Saudi troops managed to enter the mosque. Once inside, Saudi soldiers neutralized all the militants, and in this, Mohammed bin Abdullah al-Qahtani, who was calling himself Imam Mahdi, was also killed. However, the leader of the uprising, Juhayman al-Otaybi, was caught alive. There was only one reason for capturing him alive: he needed further interrogation. After 1 year, in 1980, he was sentenced to death and was publicly executed by beheading. His remaining 67 companions were also publicly executed by beheading in various cities of Saudi Arabia. If we look at the aftermath of this entire event, approximately 1,000 people lost their lives. Unofficial reports say that 500 to 600 of them were civilians. Before this incident, Saudi Arabia was moving towards modernization, but after this incident, the Saudi government's approach changed 180 degrees. Religious conservatism increased, ulama, religious scholars, were empowered more, and a moral police force was also created. The job of this moral police was to ensure that Islamic rules are being followed properly. Music was completely banned. Hijab was now made mandatory for girls. A system of separation between men and women in public spaces was also implemented. The government increased the funding for madrasas, also started building more madrasas. The goal was to ensure that no such dissent would arise again, God forbid, which would say that Saudi has gone too far from Islam. After this event, the alliance between the US and Saudi Arabia had been shaken. The relationships that were improving now began to deteriorate. An anti-Western sentiment started growing among people. Everyone started blaming the US, saying that when we increased friendship with them, nothing good happened to us. This calamity is because of them. In fact, anti-Western sentiment started growing to such an extent that more extremist groups began to form. By the way, Osama bin Laden was also influenced by the Siege of Mecca, and he was also strongly anti-Saudi monarchy. Because of this siege, modernization in Saudi Arabia was halted for almost 40 years. Women were not allowed to drive, and their mobility, going from here to there, was also very restricted. Any kind of public events, especially those related to entertainment, were completely banned. The entire country had gone into a period of strong religious enforcement. until 2016. Yes, until 2016. Because in 2016, it was the turn of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He directly said that I am going to make Saudi Arabia a new Europe, where there will be a lot of tourism and cultural diversity. The reforms that Mohammed bin Salman has made are again taking Saudi Arabia towards modernization, such as women have been given permission to drive, bans on entertainment events have been lifted. In fact, since 2023, concerts upon concerts are happening. The Soundstorm Festival was held in Riyadh, then the Post Malone concert happened, then the International Opera Festival also took place. There are also many people who criticize Mohammed bin Salman's liberal policies. Well, a whole separate video can be made on the Crown Prince. If you want to know more about all this, I would recommend a book to you, Blood and Oil. Definitely read that. Anyway, circumstances have changed quite a lot now. Saudi Arabia has invested a lot in its security and counterterrorism, increased surveillance, and started intelligence monitoring of religious groups so that it doesn't happen that an uprising begins again. But looking at all these reforms and modernization of Mohammed bin Salman, may Allah not allow any problems to start again, because the last time when King Khalid tried, the outcome was not good. You and I can only pray for well-being. What is your opinion on this entire event? I would definitely like to know that, so please tell me your opinion in the comments below. Otherwise, if you found this video informative, hit the subscribe button, friend. Now I take my leave. We'll meet in another video discussing another topic. Until then, give your brother permission. I'm leaving. Goodbye.